This is Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Rob from The Rob and Slim Show. Check us out every Wednesday on IPMNation.com/live2. You are listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Yeah. This is Mike Scudero, host of the Yapping Yankees podcast, where I yap about the Yanks and nothing but the Yanks. Anything and everything in the Yankees universe. If you're a Yankee fan, this is the podcast for you. A new episode drops every Sunday night, and you can listen on SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Matt O'Leary from Just Jets, your one-stop shop for all things Jets football. You're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hey everyone, this is John Corrigan, host of Corrigan's Corner and the editor of The Wrestling Estate, welcoming you to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
This is Frank Cugino, host of Frank About Sports on YouTube, and you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hello out there. This is Tony Myers, AKA Chainsaw Tony, FMW Leather, Leatherface. And you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Don't touch that dial.
Reckless Airwaves Radio. This is Frankie McDonald. I'm doing great. You're listening to the Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hey, this is Reckless Airwaves model Valerie, and you're listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Uncensored, unfiltered, unforgiving radio. And be sure to check me out on the site at recklessairwaves.com.
Welcome to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Uncensored, unforgiving radio that's always willing to push the limits. We don't care about political correctness. We don't need anyone's approval, and we do what we want. We are ready to wreck the airwaves. This is Reckless Airwaves Radio.
Hey, what's up, Tony?
Hey, what's going on, man?
It's going pretty good. How about yourself?
Well, way better off now hearing from you, man.
Thank you.
It always seems to be that way, doesn't it?
This has to be the earliest interview that we've done. Usually we do it late at night, which I like as well, but this is, I was just kind of sitting here anyway doing nothing. You were ready to go, so I was like, why wait till 10 o'clock or 11 when, we can knock it out now?
Yeah, and reason being off the top, I don't know, I dipped out of my my regular job. Some dramatic crap went down, and I was like, you know what? I look at my bank account, and I look around me, and I don't need this. I don't want this. So, you know what? I'm leaving.
You left for good, or you just kind of left early for the day, you mean?
No, we're just in the middle of this dramatic crap, and,
Oh, okay.
It's one of those deals, and, you could shrug your shoulders, you look around, you go, I don't need this. I can't relate to a guy that really needs it. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I have mortgage to pay.
Yeah.
Well, not me. I'm just a free spirit. I'm just killing time before I get to go back to Japan, which is seemingly always the case, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still a lot of restrictions on flying, right? What's the latest? Are you going back soon, or are you kind of just waiting like everybody else? I mean, I see people posting on social media and stuff that they're not even thinking about going on, their vacations and stuff coming up this spring and summer because of all this travel restrictions still.
Yeah, I guess now is a better time than ever to tell you what exactly happened. About trying to get on the, going all the way out to LaGuardia because that was the only airport that would fly me out after it was canceled from Newark again, my third time and everything. And then the flight itself wound up getting canceled, and I go, this is like 6 hours before. I didn't even know that was lawful.
Right.
And it was a connecting flight, so I had to have my corona test done and all that nonsense. And, it was all said and done. I came home for like 2 weeks. I didn't even go right back to work. I was like, I've been working 7 days a week, open and close like every day, just to keep occupied, to keep from staring at four walls. Well, now I could just go on YouTube and watch the top 10 Mojo lists, or do whatever I want. Watch movies that I've been meaning to watch for a long time, or whatever. So.
Yeah. And the last time, before you're talking about going to the airport and it got canceled, basically while you were sitting there waiting to go, you had come on with me like the night before, or maybe the night before, or something like that. So that was about a little before the holidays, right? Like December.
Yeah, and too, if you remember, even then I was sitting there saying, they're probably going to turn me right around, and I'm not getting my hopes up too much. But now there's a complete restriction that the Japanese government passed down this past week, where they say nobody is getting in. Essential work visa or not, which they're in the midst of like reprocessing my work visa and all that stuff. So, I mean, no telling, man. It's kind of weird in retrospect looking back. At first we were looking at 2-3 weeks or whatever, before everything went back to normal. And this thing is stretched out to, we're closing in on a year now, I guess, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much is a year. I mean, it was pretty much out there in January. They just didn't know it. Now, this restriction that you're talking about with Japan, they're not taking anybody in. It's strictly because of COVID, obviously, I would think.
Yeah, and it's so weird because they still ran Wrestle Kingdom, and you're watching people like, not as many people as before, but still, they're a decent-sized crowd to go into the Tokyo Dome and that kind of thing. And I mean, it just it's kind of weird watching independents just kind of still moving along, and crowds still attending, but not in the masses that they were before. I mean, quarantine, of course, has taken like a toll on everybody, but it does give you a lot of time to. I mean, now is the time. If you ever want to learn how to play the piano or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, you probably, hopefully, you will never see this kind of downtime again, but who knows with this. It's crazy. Now, I don't know if we talked about this before. I don't think we did, but, now that the vaccine is kind of becoming available, it's still not being distributed really quickly, but are you, especially traveling, you travel to other countries and stuff, are you one of the people who want to get it, or are you one of the people who wants to kind of hold off on getting it, or worried about maybe it was rushed to be made or something? And then I'll tell you what my decision is going to be.
Oh, yeah. Well, I looked at it and I go, well, let somebody else be the guinea pig, because you don't know what the side effects are going to be. You don't know if it's truly going to work. I'm not going to be the first to run out there and be like, hey, go ahead, shoot me up with all kinds of stuff. Right. Knock on wood, I haven't had so much as a cold, but it's one of those things where I'd rather somebody else go through the process, and I'd rather somebody else, let somebody else be the guinea pig. I mean, why would I be in such a rush? I mean, God only knows the side effects going into it. It's kind of like when the whole e-cigarette thing first came out,
Right.
And to this day, even with that, they don't know the chemicals involved in it. But
nobody knew. When those and I don't smoke really. I have asthma, so even if I wanted to smoke or do anything with inhaling, that's not a good idea, because I'll just cough for days on end. But I mean, they didn't know. I think when those e-cigarettes came out, that it would line your. What does it line your lungs with? Some kind of like plastic or something. I don't know, something crazy like that or something. They thought it was just kind of air or whatever.
Yeah, there's all kinds of bizarre chemicals that go into that thing.
Yeah, and nobody really knew that.
Well, we've heard like one or two horror stories here and there, but we haven't heard like long-term effects on people. Like, well, I've been using an e-cigarette for 15 years now, and we haven't heard like the real, it would have broke by now in some kind of big scandal that a certain
and they haven't been around that
good.
long, right? I mean. What are you talking about, like 6-7 years maybe? Something like that?
I would say the first time I started seeing them resurface, because I got some of the earliest. And, at the time I was thinking, and I wasn't quite thinking about the chemicals that go into it. So, I mean, right. But 2010, I want to say, was one of the first times I ever saw them. And they had like, it was almost like, gosh, it was kind of like an aluminum thing that was wrapped with this like blackish tape, and it almost looked like cotton and like a coral that was like sitting in there that would heat up, and you had to like drip the drops of like a tiny little like pint-sized thing that you were given. And even then, I knew that it was like all of it was very primitive. But when I looked at it, I said, I'd rather be inhaling this than like smoke anymore.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think as time went on, I had like one catastrophe happen to me where I just leaned back onto cigarettes, and kind of regret it since. But in another sense too, it's a lot of trial and error involved. You don't exactly know what you're getting into with those things.
Yeah. And see, the thing with the COVID vaccine though is, how long do you wait though? I mean, you're not going to see if someone has like a bad reaction to this, or let's say they develop something years from now. I mean, what are you going to not do? Not get the vaccine for 5 years? You might wind up getting it, and something happens in the meantime. That's kind of why I'm kind of leaning towards getting it.
Right. And also too, there's different forms of COVID. I mean, there are different, it's not just a virus. I mean, there's like, kind of like different forms of hepatitis or whatever. I've been, from what I've read up on it and the research that I've done, come to find out that there's actually been like, there's different forms or different types of it that you can wind up getting. So it's not just like an open and close, COVID, not COVID. But all I know is that, and as far as things go, with my everyday daily life, I don't want to be in touch with a lot of people. I don't need to be, I think I've had the added advantage and benefit of saving my money. So, I mean, I'm not in any rush to get back out there and, oh, God, I got to pay my electric bill, or, I got to keep water on in my house. It's not so much that, for me anyway. So, I mean, yeah, I just tend to avoid, I mean, there are bars that are open out there, but there's so much other things that have been shut down. Anybody that's trying to make life go back to normal, it's not out there to begin with anyway. So nobody's reopening up. Yeah, nobody's reopening anything up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's going to be so long before everything gets back to normal, where you could just like go pick someone up and go hang out somewhere, or go to a game, or a wrestling match, or a boxing match, or anything. It seems like that's not even going to be an option anytime, in the next year or so. But it's crazy. That's why I'm kind of like leaning towards just getting the vaccine and hoping for the best, because I don't want to live like this. I mean, we're almost like giving years away, it seems like. It feels like that anyway.
Yeah, this will be the type of thing that no matter what happens, and even into the distant future, that people are going to be sitting around talking about this. Like, there was a time, an era, for the people that weren't alive, they would have to explain to them what Corona was, or it could still exist out there, which is even crazier, in some kind of various form. I mean, they never cured HIV. They only found treatment for it. Perhaps Corona will be along the same. Well, I mean, you remember this as a kid living through the 80s, because you're around the same age as me. Remember the inherent like paranoia out there that robots will be our masters, and then came AIDS and crack, and we found a way through that. So
I mean, we'll definitely find it. I mean, remember when AIDS, HIV first came out? You would, they didn't. If a kid had it, parents didn't want to send their kids to school to be near him. You thought you would get it from touching someone. Then there was the whole thing with the toilet seats, and then there was a whole thing with remember the mosquitoes? They just transferred blood from person to person. I mean, so, and then a lot of stuff turns out to be wrong. So you wonder how much of this COVID information is wrong. But you just can't, brush under the brush away the fact that people are dying from it. I mean, it's not like it's not there and it's just imaginary, but we'll see. I guess hopefully herd immunity kind of takes a little toll on it too, and stifles. It seems like it's stronger than ever, though. That's the worrisome part.
years on down the line, who knows? We could look back and just be like, remember when we were all wearing masks? You remember, too, at first it was gloves, too, because everything was surface. They said you could contact it from the surface, too. There's so many things that possibly in the near future we'll look back at and laugh at with this whole thing. So, but in the meantime, I mean, just go by the guidelines, go by the procedures. There's a whole bunch of people down in Florida, and not to throw any shade at people like that, but a whole bunch of people in Florida that just, the hell with the mask, and there were businesses that had signs up in front of them written in marker saying, November 1st, the mask come off. Well, November 1st is coming past, and unless you want to get arrested or...
A lot of ignorance out there, too. I mean, it's one thing if you don't want to, you don't want to take it as seriously, but you're putting other people at risk at the same time. So you got to think that way. But a lot of people are selfish. Let's be honest. People are very selfish. They just think about themselves, and their own comfort level. So you're never going to change that. It's like that Twilight Zone episode. People are like all over. It's just selfish no matter where you go.
So much about what we're going through with the pandemic, like when we reviewed the top 15 episodes.
Yeah.
So much applies to it right now with what's going on right now with COVID.
People turning against each other like the monsters that do on Maple Street.
And then the aliens looking out from the outside. Yeah, the aliens looking from the outside, like laughing and scoffing, like, look at this. Humans truly are their own worst enemy. I mean, really what's going to occupy you more than anything right now, it's just basic primal things like implanted in your head. If you like playing guitar, you get to play more guitar. If you like singing, you get more time to sing. If you know what I mean? Like, now more than ever, and you got to figure 2021 day and age and with technology and everything, if you are not entertained, I have maybe 50 gigs worth of stuff on the desktop of my laptop that stuff I want to watch, things I want to sit there and get through. I got a giant house full of food, I got about 4 cases of, those tall boy Labatt ice.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, now more than ever, if you cannot, hey, you're married, you got a wife, now you get more time with your wife. You got friends you've been meaning to hang out with. Now's the time. Now you can hang out. You are free to do whatever you'd like. You really are, with the exception of obviously visiting other countries. But they even have the virtual things where you could virtually, you go to one of those places and they plunk that fancy helmet on your head and you can virtually go and visit these countries.
Right. I was actually looking at that. I don't think that's something that I would buy because, I have, I'll have that short attention span where I'll buy something like a game thing and then I'll do it once or twice and then just say, I'm not really into that anymore. But I see like those virtual headsets and stuff and they look kind of interesting. I always kind of have that idea like I might get like nauseous having that on, but it is interesting though. Like I see it mainly for games and stuff.
Well, if music and entertainment is your thing, you can do it now. You can, now with all the celebrities that are on Cameo.com, there are ones that for extra money will just sit there and talk with you. Like, just talking with somebody like how you're talking with somebody on Skype or something.
Right.
You get to do that nowadays with celebrities. The interaction, entertain yourself with social media. There's so much that it's infinite. I turned 47 and, oh God, it's less than 2 weeks now. Wow. But like even between now and then, it's such a great time to me, more than ever because of how much things have advanced. Without people like turning on themselves and that kind of thing in their own head, which itself could be about 15 different Twilight Zone episodes that we didn't get to talk about. But now more than ever, you can keep yourself entertained by just everything. I'll
tell you one thing.
Even without the internet.
I was just gonna say, you brought up the Twilight Zone. I did, enjoy the annual Twilight Zone marathon on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. You know, did you catch any of that? I mean, not that you. I mean, you can pretty much catch them on YouTube anyway, but I enjoy watching them one after the other for that like 3-day period.
Yeah, because you know what I'm dying to do later on tonight. I have about 7 different windows open of stuff that I just want to see real quick on YouTube. I have not turned on the TV set in, God, I got to think when the last time I turned on the TV was and flipped through the channels. Because TV's on, like, all around me. Like, this was the first time in years that I got to spend Thanksgiving. I got to spend Halloween. I got to spend Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day with immediate family, you know, and I haven't been able to do that here stateside in years. So that was something I was just meaning to get out and do so bad, you know, because I'm in my immediate family, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
Oh, God, I wasn't even making any points. I just caught myself rambling to you again, like I always do, but...
Well, let me throw this at you because I mean to ask you this. Any thoughts on all the chaos that went on the last 2 weeks with the storming of the Capitol and, you know, all this other stuff? It was kind of crazy. I was actually off that day when that happened, and, you know, I just kind of put I watched the news like everybody else, but, you know, it's been a long time since I left the news on for like hours on end, but that was just such a crazy day. I was like, you just had to see what was going to happen next.
Let's just tie this all into everything that's going on out there. Kind of like, you know, that South Park when they put up the pandemic special that they did, and they tied together like everything that they hadn't touched base on, but that had been happening. Let's just tie all that together and push it down there in D.C. And then D.C. will apply. They've been applying for statehood for how long? How many years has Washington, D.C. applied for statehood here in America? I'd have to look it up on my phone on Google.
I'm not sure, but yeah, a long time.
It's pretty much since the days of the, you know, anyway, like, and then people wonder why. They wonder why. Like, white people wind up, like, looking at themselves going, well, why do people, man, everything is racist now. And it's because of what's been done in the past. You know what I mean? Donald Trump voters, then you wonder why. You wonder why people look at you like a bunch of knuckle-scraping idiots. Right. That is embarrassing. As a human being, you don't act that way.
No.
A gentleman doesn't conduct himself like that.
No. It's just crazy. I mean, these people, what did they work at all? I mean, who has time to be traveling to Washington to do that? To attend the rally and then, you know, march down the thing. I mean, it's crazy.
It is just. It is. Is it not? Do you not feel ashamed of? I feel ashamed that that's our human race. That's mankind right there. Right. I'm ashamed to be a human being. I gotta look at that. Like one of my best buddies, Miyagi, Aaron, guy that's, you know, in the. Not the church right there in, you know, in the part of Tokyo that I live, but the one that's in Saitama, north of that. Miwa Sato is a former FMW Ladies World Champion, right? She's the one that got me started attending church. But in that church right there, a good friend of mine, Miyagi, he was sitting there saying to me, he goes, yeah, but to not love your own, you can't love anything else. You know, the guy is a very smart guy. He didn't quite word it. He put it in his own words when he said it. So I go, yeah, but I'm not going to worship blindly and say that, oh, I'm proud to be American. Like, no, some things make me utterly ashamed, and I can't take that back because that's the way I feel when I look and I see, like, behavior of some of Americans, especially when they come to Japan. It's like, this is embarrassing, you know, and I don't mean to be rude and confrontational, but I'll tell people, I'll be like, listen, I could tell you're not from around here or whatever, but at least I'm trying to help you and trying not to make, you know, you be a fool. You know, Americans can't behave like that here. Not only will you draw funny stares, but your time here, like hanging out in Japan or being a tourist, it's going to be miserable if you continue to act like this, because you're going to run into that wrong somebody, and he's going to make your life here, you know. Anyway, that's pretty much what I see with the whole DC thing. It makes me ashamed of people. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but.
Right. Well, I mean, you see, the problem I think is that, you know, and this goes for both sides too, Democrat and Republican, is that and I enjoy politics. You know, I'm not, you know, sitting there day and night thinking about it like some of these people, but it's almost like a cult for a lot of these people. I mean, they just worship these politicians, and you know damn well that they don't agree with every single thing that they say or do, but they will, you know, say they agree with everything. And it's a cult. I mean, and you know, that's where it gets out of hand. I couldn't imagine like just, you know, being obsessed with a politician. And even if it's the other way, you could even say like if you don't like a politician, you know, you saw, you know, whether you like Trump or not, the people who were obsessed with him since day one, complaining about every little thing he did. Now you're going to see the other side. You're going to see the other side where they're going to be complaining about every single thing Biden does for the next 4 years. It's like, man, what kind of life is that, you know, to get up every morning and say, okay, what did you do today that I can complain about? I mean, that's to me, that's a cult. That's obsession, and that's just cultish acting to me.
It's why I never get interested in politics. You know, you have your, just like religion. You know, you'll never ever hear me. I invite people to come with me to my church. You know, I'm like, there's a lot of good people here, and if it's not your thing, I let you be. You know, I have friends. Yeah. My friend Lucas from Argentina. Okay, he visited me while he's, you know, and this is a guy from Argentina that's been living in America 13 years. He came here with nothing. He came here with a sick mother, and then she passed away. So he walks into Japan with an open mind, and he's full-blown atheist. He despises all religious. I went to him, and I go, you know, I'll invite you, you know, so you'll get another experience. And he goes, nah, it's a church. I don't belong in it. And you know what? We said nothing else to each other about it. I'm like, I understand. And he was like appreciative that I understood. And I go, because I'm set in my ways. Nobody brainwashed me. This is something that, you know, look at the word religion. Okay, when you take an L and I out of it, the word spells region. So depending on where you're born in the world, you're already brainwashed into whatever religion, right? Right. It's the same way with politics, because you're not going to tell me those were sane men. Did you see the way they were dressed? It looked like a really bad indie show.
Yeah, it looked like one of those. You had a Confederate soldier. I saw one guy. He had what the heck did he have? He had like army fatigues on, but then he had flip flops. So it's like, how did the whole thing? You know, it was like a Halloween costume. It looked like you remember those fucking indie shows that were so bad that you could tell they used a boxing ring because there was still a welded piece on the post to let you know that it was a boxing ring, but they were using it. Yeah, like the kind of place that has like a couple cinder blocks for ring steps. It looked like that show, like if you went to the back in the locker room, like, hey, let me say hello to the boys. And if you walked into the back, that's what you would walk into. Right.
It was like a collection of the shindiest wrestlers ever stateside.
Also, you know, you got to think that these have, and again, I'm saying this to both sides, not just one side, very weak-minded. You have to be very weak-minded to be such a follower, right? I mean, you can't not have your own point of view, and, you know, you just follow someone or some group, you know, 100%, even to the point where it comes down to storming, you know, a federal building and risking your job and getting arrested and embarrassing your family and everything. It's brainwashing to a point too.
A federal building that you know cameras are on you, you know all attention's on you.
And
where do they even find people? where do they even find people like that? Like, what rock did they crawl out from under? Like, what?
It's amazing.
Yeah, I shouldn't be laughing, really, because people like this actually exist in the real world.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I tend to focus on and navigate towards stuff that, you know, I don't know. Okay, tonight, it popped into my head when I was maybe, I swear, I was 4 years old maybe. But I remember my parents dragging me out to Kramer versus Kramer. They wanted to watch that movie. It came out in the theaters.
I remember that movie, yeah. I don't remember really watching it.
I
just
God
remember
it was
it was
that movie.
popular in the 80s.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, here lately I've been on like a Meryl Streep kick because, you know, just because. Like, a buddy of mine, she laughed at me a while back. She's from Michigan. And she's like, Meryl Streep, you know, and I'm quoting her, and this is what she said. She goes, "You're such a fag, Meryl Streep. How could you?" Oh, man. I go, Meryl Streep is one of the greatest actresses in the history of acting. She has more, a kind of 31 major registered awards. You know, like, come on, you can't, you know, that certain things, certain pivotal points in time or whatever, as far as, you know, movies go, earth-shattering, the work that she has done. You know, like, did you get a chance to see the Tiger Woods thing yet?
What thing is that? A documentary or the thing with his son?
Oh, God, the thing just came out on HBO. It was,
oh, no, I don't know. What is it, a documentary?
It's a documentary on him, and it's so funny because, like, one of his buddies goes, "Oh, man, he ain't going to like this shit." And the guy starts talking about, you know, seeing Tiger womanizing and everything. And then at the end of it, the famous nightclub hostess, an old club that I used to go to out in the city, she just plunks down in front of the camera and she's like, "Okay, like, what do you want me to say?" You know, that was the mistress that he got busted with. So, anyway, yeah, to me, like, everything about that, but you cannot deny Tiger Woods is the single greatest golfer that's ever lived. It's no different than Serena Williams.
Right.
Hands down, easily the greatest tennis player ever, male or female. I mean, as far as, you know, titles and, could she beat, like, the top guy? No one said that. But, you know, for what it is, for what she's in, yeah, I mean, single greatest tennis player in the history of sports. I mean, yeah, you can't deny things. I mean, it's fact, take it for what it is. You could draw your entertainment out of it. I mean, I tried to find the redeeming values of when this whole thing popped up, and I go, you know, my initial reaction was, shit, it's happening right by the, you know, it's Pentagon, where our famous forefathers have walked and lived, you know, and so, yeah, when I first saw the DC thing pop up, I was like, "Oh no! Like this is what's going down. This is what's happening."
Right. Yeah, I mean,
but at least
I was going to say, hopefully
I saw some redeeming value out of it.
What was that? What was the redeeming value?
Well, I mean, I know it's a scary thought, but I'm sorry. I went through every emotion in dealing with that. I dealt with shock, anger, frustration, hatred. What are the? There's 12 steps, isn't there? I went through every single emotion you could possibly go looking looking through the entire thing. When I saw those guys storm that place, I was in shock, denial. I forgot all the steps, but I hit every single one of those like emotions just by watching this.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wonder if anybody else felt that.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous to see. I mean, hopefully that we don't have and I don't think we will. I mean, usually something like this, you know, it'll happen once and then the surprise of it will not actually happen again. But I don't think we'll see this again with the inauguration. In fact, I don't think we'll see anything that day during the inauguration. You might have a small thing, you know, very small. It's not even, probably won't even be worth really even reporting on. But, you know, I don't think you're going to see anything like that again. Hopefully, you know, and politics aside, hopefully once Biden is president, everything just goes back being, you know, normal. We don't need to hear from the president every single day. We don't need to know exactly what he's doing every single day and his comments on every little thing that happens in the world. Only when we need to hear, when something is going on. So hopefully things get back to normal on that end anyway.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it just, absolutely mind-blowing that people like that not only exist, but they function in everyday society. The reason they probably cover themselves, it's probably like, the Ku Klux Klan, like the reason they cover themselves up with paint and have to go out in this outrageous gimmick is because, like, too much of a pussy to do it in the real world. They wouldn't do that with their face seen, It's like, but
what do you think of I saw a couple of people saying that maybe they should. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. But do you think they should take Trump out of the WWE Hall of Fame? I don't know. I mean, I don't think that really matters, to be honest with you. I don't think the WWE Hall of Fame is that important, where, like, it matters who's in there and who's not. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, here real quick, I was going to touch on this too and just kind of ball everything together with, everything going on in the current day and era. Before I get to wrestling, I was going to say, honestly, if that had been a BLM, if that had been like a Black Lives Matter and they stormed into and if they did the exact same thing, there would be a pile of dead bodies. There would. Yeah, there wouldn't have been they would have been But, okay, switching gears, Hall of Fame. Well, for me, I was put into a Hall of Fame here in Jersey, and by the time I went in, the whole place had really jumped the shark. A lot of great talent came out of that place, don't get me wrong. And a lot of, like, pretty good name guys are in, the Hall of Fame for East Coast. But it's like when I got put into their Hall of Fame, and I had because, like, first I went to downtown Bruno, but he was busy. Then I went to Jerry Lawler, and I go, you're not going to come all the way here for, and he goes, hey, man, you still got those Memphis VHS, and the network needs footage. And I was just like, yeah, that's what I thought. So then I went to the owner of the place, and I go, why don't you induct me and tell these people why you're doing it, Because I'm pretty sure they're pretty, I'm pretty sure they're all standing there going, what the hell? Who would put Tony Myers in any Hall of Fame? But, so even then, like, the guy, says his thing, and the place had only been a shell of what it used to be, in the heyday. But still, going into any Hall of Fame and, like, all the sacrifice and everything that hits you, and it's like boom, 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 100%. It's a lot of emotion there. I broke down. I started crying like a little girl when he was like, now and bring up here, your Hall of Fame for this year. Hall of Fame going in this year. I broke down and cried. So, I mean, I hate to think that, if they put somebody in their Hall of Fame or they take somebody out of their Hall of Fame, I would hope for the guys going in that it does feel like something, even though it is, and you and I know it's all politically driven and stuff, but, there's a lot of truth, and I love what a lot of the guys, and it sucks, I guess they script things for them, but, if you get any kind of acknowledgement like that, it's got to mean something.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Pete Rose is in the WWE Hall of Fame. He made one appearance, and got tombstoned. That's really
he did a couple though. He did a couple.
It wasn't the fact that it's because it's Pete Rose more than anything he did, to earn it is what I'm saying. That's what I mean.
I just thought Kane inducting him had one of the best lines of all time, saying, "You're right. This is the wrong Hall of Fame because this guy
should be in the.
He does. Yeah.
He belongs in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, and he did something wrong, yes, but a lot of wrongdoings have happened in baseball since then with all the steroid use and cheating and stuff like that. I mean, Pete Rose is he did something he betted, but I mean, come on. I mean, some of these guys ruined records by cheating.
Yeah. That's why I get into it all the time with people that are sports fans but non-wrestling fans, because I go, they're like, oh, everybody knows that's fake. And I go, come on. I go, the National Baseball practically went out of business when they found out that they threw the World Series. and there was all kinds of mobsters and debt collectors, and
at the black.
There was all
black
kinds of
scandal?
the boys were in on it. They were gambling money too. You know, I mean, if Pete Rose, he above almost all ball players. I can't think of a more well, you know, I mean, Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio. You're never going to top, you know, what's been laid down. But I mean, it's Pete Rose. Do you know how good you have to be for how many years to get that many base hits alone?
Yeah. No, he should be in the Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of
Fame.
Fame.
Nobody remembers anything at all about the Cincinnati Reds until Pete Rose. That's the first thing you think.
Right, yeah.
I mean,
you know what they're going to do? They're going to wait until the guy's dead, and then they're going to put him in. You know, then they're going to say, oh, you know what, we're going to forgive Pete. And that seems like what they would, not just baseball, just, you know, things in general. That seems to be how it happens, that you get kind of sentimental after the person's gone, and then you kind of, you know, do the favor. But what good is it? He's dead now. He can't see it. He can't enjoy it. It's, you know, do it while they're alive.
How many times? You know, college football, college basketball. You know, like you like to say it was a work. You know, wrestling's such a work. Was it a work when this guy got busted? That one, gambling. You know, it's you know. I guess it's just my view of looking at things, but a Hall of Fame, I mean, it should be something prestigious. Pete Rose not being, I mean, like what? The guy, he went to prison. I bought his book, you know, I read his book. You know, what more would they want out of him, like at this point? Like, how could he ever reverse, you know? What could he possibly do in a positive manner that would put him in that Hall of Fame, other than dying?
Right, yeah. And there's nothing else he could do. There's nothing else he could say. He's admitted it, you know. Maybe if he would have did it right off the bat, it would have been different, but you can't go back. That's like 30 years ago. So.
All the nights, all the shitty buses that guy had to take, all the crappy, you know, and I understand his love of the game, and he's just, you know, but you know, there was several points in his baseball career where Pete Rose was like, I don't love this like I used to, man. And then something will come along and it'll just rejuvenate his love for what he was doing. But that's an awful lot of sacrifice, you know. I don't care how anybody looks at it, at the analytics of it. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't hurt anyone.
He just bet, and he didn't even bet against his own team. So, I mean, that has to count for something.
Exactly. If anything, that should be more.
Yeah, so he wasn't throwing games. He was betting to win, actually.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that's motivation for him to do even better at his job.
Right.
His job, career, livelihood, everything.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens. You know, hopefully they do the right thing eventually, but. You know, have you been watching any wrestling lately, you know, with the downtime? Any WWE, AEW, anything like that?
I mean, I hear stuff all the time, and if something's interesting enough to where I'll go and, like, look for it on YouTube or, you know, or that kind of thing, or I run across something, you know, if something grabs my eye, you know, I'll go ahead and try to watch it, but I don't make it a habit. I don't watch wrestling at all. I should be ashamed of myself.
Kenny Omega. He's been pretty hot
myself.
right now. I've always liked Omega. What's that?
I said I watch myself, you know. Yeah, I mean, and that's the weirdest thing. Right when he started with New Japan, Kenny Omega was still the most down to earth guy. Yeah. You know, he's like, man, you're coming in as I'm leaving, and I was just like, you know, wow, this means something because, I mean, he was DDT.
Yeah.
And with everybody knew he was leaving. I just hate the whole political situation. I find it a little funny, you know, talking about politics and government. I find it a little bit funny. The guy has to be detained for what, you know, hours, and they wouldn't allow him, you know, and his work visa got all tampered with and everything. I find that really hard to believe that New Japan had nothing to do with that. You know, it's like, you're not going to, I know. You know what I mean? I know.
Right.
It's not in no way to like slight that company, but it's like, you could have handled that differently. You could have told them, okay, come in here and do a couple. That didn't have to happen. Now you're messing with somebody's life. The guy's sitting there terrified. He's in a friggin' holding cell. He's in the custody of for what? Really.
Yeah.
There's a different way you could have. So, my heart's always been with him, and he was one guy that climbed to the very top and, the most prestigious thing that you can do in Japan. And he did all that just being a humble Canadian kid, That was his goal from the start, but it wasn't everything that he thought it would be. Yeah. I mean, and I hated that for him, because then you scratch your head and you go, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with my life right now?
He's doing very well right now, though. I mean, he's got the AEW championship. He's got his persona back as the cleaner, so he's doing a little, he's with Don Callis, and he's doing the invasion. Well, it was an invasion. He's doing a little crossover, I guess is the way you would say.
His goal from day.
He's doing a lot. He's red hot right now.
You get to really know somebody. His goal. Yeah, and all those AEW fans were all over the internet, just going nuts about how they're misusing them. And I was like, that's another detriment that the current wrestling fan has. They have got instant gratification. If they had let the whole Daniel Bryan thing just run its course and just sit back and relax, But no, poor Rey Mysterio Jr. comes running out for the Royal Rumble at 30. They realize he's not Daniel Bryan. He gets booed out of the building.
Yeah.
But Omega's goal.
They were basically saying with Omega that the first year in AEW he was going to, not be in the title hunt, and he was going to put some people over, to help grow the company and help grow some other wrestlers, which is exactly what he did. And year 2 would be his, all about him. And sure enough, year 2 he's got the belt, and he's the big guy, there right now.
I had to point this out. The more that you got to personally know him, and the more that, I got chances to speak with him, I found it absolutely incredible. He accomplished his ultimate goal was, if he didn't make it in America, that was like a really big, I know that was a gut punch to him, because he got mistreated at Deep South. They weren't very good to him. And his whole goal was to go somewhere else, catch on, and shove it right up their ass, just like Cody Rhodes did. And now Omega's got, this belt over his shoulder, and it's the hottest, company. I mean, they're hotter than WWE. Let's be honest. WWE matters more or whatever.
Anymore.
But yeah, there's Omega there with a belt over his shoulder, and he gets to tell everybody everything he always wanted to. I mean, how do you have a bad promo with Don Callis standing there?
Can't. I love Don Callis. I've always liked Don Callis. I remember Don Callis. Now, obviously, I know he's been around a long time before this, but when TNA first started, remember they used to have like those weekly shows or something like that. It was strange. It was like weekly pay-per-view. I ordered a few of them. I remember back in the day. They were like $5 because there was a lot of ECW guys on it back then, and we're talking like 2002, 3. So I was kind of craving ECW still, and it was gone. So I ordered a bunch of them. I remember Don Callis was there. Him and Eric Watts were doing like a feud or something. You can't go wrong with Don Callis. He's great on the mic.
And two, the thing is, and I know he got so much shit, but by the time he was in Memphis, still on a downside guarantee from WWF, and he was stuck down there with us, I felt so bad because Eric Watts is like the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for him. And Callis is another one too. We would hear down in Memphis, we would hear weekly what was going on at WWF because they were bringing in all the WWF guys in. And I know that they fuck with Don Callis so bad. I mean, they broke off toothpicks in his locks. He would be on the payphone. One of them would reach in there and hang up the phone on it. Like, they screwed with that guy so bad.
Yeah.
They just didn't see it in him. And they all thought that he was cocky. I guess because he didn't go out for beers with JBL or whatever, but like, they really, that's where they missed the boat. If you got a guy that talented, he could bump, he could wrestle, he could talk, and that's what you're going to do with him. You know, I mean, I'm partial to it too because I love Chris Jericho. Like he's a true. I don't think did I tell that story before when Rick Titan passed away?
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, because we were in Memphis with him, and I spent a lot of time around the guy. And you know, Jericho of all people. I mean, dude, I am so obscure. I mean, other you know, I get calls all the time. People, you know, hey, come wrestle here with us. So I mean, I'm so obscure here in America, and I know that, and that's cool. But for Chris Jericho to take out the time to appreciate, you know, being tight with Rick Titan and everything, you know, talk about a great guy. And him, like Rick Titan, he overcame his wrestling addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Jericho's always
was doing great as a motivator.
When you see someone who's in trouble, you would see him donating to the cause and stuff like that. Jericho's always been a pretty good guy.
No, I go, you realize, because, you know, right, people get us confused all the time. I go, you realize I'm not like the quote-unquote real Leatherface. I'm the third one. I'm the bastard child. I'm the run of the litter. I was like, you realize I'm not, you know, him. And he goes, no. He goes, that guy, he doesn't know nothing about the internet. He's like, he's on a farm with his brother. He's retired. He's like, no, man. He goes, you know, Rick told me. And I was like, wow, holy shit. Like, I didn't think that you would even commit a name like mine to memory. Why would you do that? You know, I'm just some jerk off that crossed paths with him, and, you know. But, yeah, when he, and him too, he, like, really fell on his face with the whole Razor Ramon 2 thing. You know, I had such a soft spot for the guy. I'm like, you know, I have an apartment, man. I mean, Chi Cruz is staying with me. I don't ask him for one penny. If you need anything, just let me know. The boys crashed at my place all the time. Brickhouse, Brown, all of them. So, but, yeah, I mean, when you see somebody go out of their way to be kind to you, and obviously they have no agenda and they have everything to lose by even bothering with you, you know, then you know it's good people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I hope that all made some sense.
Yeah, it did. It did. I think, like, what else is really interesting in wrestling right now? I watch it here and there. I mean, I don't sit there and watch the full shows as much as I used to. You know, no fans kind of still makes it a little watered down to me, but, you know, I catch what I can. Yeah, I watch highlights and stuff. I watch more AEW than WWE, though, by far. A lot more, I would say. That's why I, even through Thanksgiving, being around family, like, stuffing my face like a pig, and, you know, my parents are, like, really well off, you know, and my brother and sister, too, have done so well for themselves. And even being around them and trying to get into the whole, like, you know, yeah, football, I was just like, this is just like someone let all the air out of a balloon. Like, this is like used car salesman. Like, yeah, now he's running it up the field. Oh, man. Without the crowd there, man, I mean, yeah. It's not the same. It's not the same. And the pumped-in noise just doesn't do it
That's
for me.
not helping.
You know, you just don't, it doesn't help, and you just don't see the fans, period, so you know it's not real, so. I mean, they're trying, but it's just not the same.
I'd have to pinpoint the show that it was when we were on the old network that you and I did, and I said, what they should do is put fans, like, you know, if they could build a, and then I heard, like, right after I said that, right after I said that, Blue Meanie said something along the same lines, and everyone's like, Blue Meanie's a genius. I'm like, damn it, if I had just made that public. I was like, I thought I did. I'm sitting here talking about it on a podcast. Now, I think I need to push the podcast, like, harder, you know, like, tell more people, hey, even, I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of humbled a bit by when I upload it to YouTube, and I realize it has, like, clips of me wrestling in Japan and stuff that's set to it, but, hey, I'm humbled, you know, that many people would tune in. A couple hundred people, you know, it's like, hey, that's really cool. I mean,
no, absolutely. And then all the other places that the podcast shows up on, Spotify and iHeartRadio and Blog Talk Radio. It's across the board. So I mean, it's a lot more lot more listens there as well.
I could almost do a history of how like me being on podcasts even came to being, because I had never done one before. And then 605 Brian Last, listening to this damn story, it's like a really cold, rainy day. There were no drivers. And then I was like, man, I got no drivers. I mean, like none. This is when I was like running that crazy Domino's. And I'm taking out like the first 3 orders of the day, and I look over there and I see Last. I see Brian Last. And I'm like, that ain't him. And I was like, oh my God, because I used to listen to the show all the time. I knew the post office box was Morristown, New Jersey, because he would say it on every single show. And sure enough, went up to the door, and there he was. And I go, you're Brian Last, aren't you? He's looking at me, and he remembers me from the Carluzzo stuff like 20 years ago. So then I'm like, yeah, this is a long story here, what I'm doing delivering your pizza to you, buddy. But anyway, here lately, too, I thought it would just be interesting, like, what if I did Uber? Like, that's a way to leave the house, and, like, I promise you, and I heard those guys actually make good money, but it's not like what it used to be, kind of. Yeah. Not only that, you deal with drunks who puke in your car, and I've heard all the horror stories, but I thought that would be a fun chapter. I bet you meet some really interesting people, or,
Right. Yeah.
It turned it into... Did you ever see the one where Macaulay Culkin, the guy gets in his car?
I think I saw that online,
Yeah.
I saw
Can you imagine it being somebody being like, what are you doing? Because some people just make small talk or whatever. I can imagine. And I could just imagine me telling them, hey, go to this podcast if you want to know more about. And then, like, they would look me up and be like, what the hell is wrong with this idiot, You know how most people do. Because, I mean, I'm while I have the benefit of, and I've inwardly worried about this with Magic Box Pro, because I have to be there in person, like, New Year's Eve, to see if I'm going to resign. The contract's only good for 2 years. So I've been sitting here getting the downside guarantee since, when did I come back from Kenya? March. I've still been on their downside guarantee. So I'm trying to make good by doing commentary on the content provided and trying to relaunch all the old WWS DVDs. Taka Michinoku is actually the head trainer at the dojo for Magic Pro. So, it's like, I look at the whole Magic Pro thing, and the money's blessing from heaven above to be on the downside. I don't financially have to worry about anything. But in the meantime, it's a thing of life, entertain yourself. What are you going to do? You're quarantined. I'll tell you what was really interesting, too, that opened my eyes. I've never been the world's biggest Jim Carrey fan, but when Howard Stern was talking with him about, what do you do in the middle of a quarantine, and listening to just between them and Robin, what they've been doing, and, finding happiness, or, branching out, or being introduced to new people, or,
Right.
It's things like that fascinate me with other human beings. What do they do to entertain themselves? What is happiness?
Right. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's a strange time. Hopefully things do get back to normal before you know it. We will see. I guess we'll finish this up with any last thoughts, Tony, on anything.
Oh man, I don't know, because I tend to ramble. One thing leads to another, and I don't know how much longer you wanted me to go. I mean, me being me,
just random thoughts, not just random thoughts.
I mean,
another 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like you're talking with a friend, so it's not like it's
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, you're not going back to Japan for a while, so we could do plenty more of these.
Oh yeah, and
right?
Like I said, now I've started to narrow in and pinpoint like a certain time, but I know for my work visa and all that stuff to get changed, I'm looking at least 6 months. So
yeah, so that's plenty.
I'm here for at least.
You're here until the
and in the
summertime.
yeah, in the meantime, I got my parents calling me and telling me, like, can you go over to the house? Can you take in the mail? You know, and you know, I'm at my place, but you know, my cousin came, so then I went. My parents have got they got all the modern day stuff inside the house where they can look at the entire interior and exterior to tell what's going on at all points in time.
You talking about like the
then,
cameras and stuff?
Yeah, so tomorrow night, my oldest drives back from, you know, she's in medical school, but she's still up there in Utica, upstate New York. And she goes, yeah, let's hang around there, and maybe we'll get ourselves, like, some seafood and, like, a bunch of junky burgers and stuff. And she goes, and we'll just sit around and we'll pretend we're rich, you know. She's kind of got my sense of humor, you know, 23 years old. Right, but, yeah, I mean, however people got to work their way through this, however you got to entertain yourself, or, you know, I appreciate, I still randomly have friends, again, asking for absolutely nothing, you know, just checking in and how you doing, how you been, and reminds me, good buddy of mine who I met through pro wrestling, but he hasn't done any wrestling in like 10 years. I got to get a hold of him just to see what he's up to.
Right.
You know, now I've provided myself that luxury of time where I have time for friends, you know, and that kind of thing. Whereas before it was just, man, it's just being too busy and trying to keep myself too busy just to avoid the reality that, you know, you're going to have to entertain yourself in some kind of way.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a different time, and you just got to kind of hang in there. It seems every time you think that it's just going to last a few more weeks or a few more months, you realize it's probably going to last another year or so. So just have to make the best of it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. And if anybody else, you know, if anybody out there thinks that they're going through hard times or things are bad or this, that, or the other, the world of problems, remember there's plenty of people out there that have it way worse. I mean, way worse.
That's definitely true. All right, Tony.
Yeah, my heart goes out.
Go ahead.
No, just point out that my heart goes out more to those people than anybody. I mean, I always tell everybody, my door is an open door, literally. Homeless people will show up, and, hey, come on. Yeah, but that's the way it's always going to be with me. You know, I appreciate hearing from people.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Tony, let me wrap this up. So, as always, a pleasure having you on. We'll do this again, what is it, January 14th? We'll do this again in February, like we try and get at least one in a month. And, yeah, just hang in there, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much once again for the platform, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right, thanks a lot, Tony.
All right, you take good care of yourself.
You've been listening to Reckless Airwaves Radio. Check us out daily at recklessairwavesradio.com for all the latest Reckless interviews, as well as other Reckless shows, including The Rob and Slim Show, Corrigan's Corner, and Straight to the Point with Percy Crawford.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.